She's written for various media and media platforms such as Yahoo, Marie Claire India, Femina.in, and Social Samosa. She also runs the popular writers community called Alphabet Sambar.
Woo!
Okay. Ouch.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really scared of mics, so actually it's okay. If you can all hear me, then I think I'll. It's okay, it's fine. Doesn't matter. I'll just step away from home. It's not practical.
Wow, this is, yeah, I'm really nervous. I'm an alumnus of this college, an alumna of this college. Today is really special for me. I've been performing for a while, but this is special because this is the first time I'm performing at my alma mater. I was one of those not quiet but outstanding students. I never really did anything of value while I was here, except one thing. I was a science student, and I was an extremely unhappy science student. I was in science because everybody around me thought that that's what would get me a job. And I used to hate going to physics lab. Hated it. To this day, I still don't know what parallax is. If somebody knows, please tell me. I don't know what that is. Remove that parallax, remove that parallax. All I can see is the peon walking around. So I'd go to the physics lab and I'd sit and doodle and write because that's all I knew how to do. And there was this lady who used to come and visit the physics teacher because I think they were friends, and I had no idea who she was. I was just trying to stay undercover so that the teacher wouldn't notice that I wasn't doing any of the work. And one day this lady stopped me in the corridor, and I was really scared because I was petrified of anybody who was part of faculty. I thought they could read my mind and see, no attendance, huh? Got to take it to the principal. And she said, did you know there's a college magazine? Will you write for it? And I said, who, me? I mean, nobody's ever asked me that. And she says, do you write? I said, I used to when I was a kid, and I don't know why I thought of telling her that. It's something that I never told anybody. And the next day I brought her this shiny red register in which I used to write my poetry painstakingly in my best handwriting and hide it away behind my books. She took it with her and she read it over the weekend, and when she came back, she came looking for me in my class, and she gave it back to me and she said, thank you for sharing this journey with me. I could see through your poetry this journey of this little girl from the time she was 7 years old to a young woman. And she gave me this. This book has stayed with me since then. So this lady was my first publisher. Thank you, Suma ma'am. Thank you so much. I've had the opportunity to write a lot since then, but you were the first person who called me a writer. So thank you so much. You've given me a fabulous life. Okay, I'm not going to cry. I'm just going to jump right in. So like Roshan mentioned, I think I'm learning since I'm still at heart a science student. I'm still learning what this literature, poetry thing is. And I figure that the three things that every poet talks about is love, life, and identity. So each of my pieces is going to be one of these. Let's do the dating thing. I'll say coffee, you'll say yup. I will spend the next half an hour wondering what yup means before I decide that it's some version of yes. We'll meet for coffee that turned into drinks because we both got delayed in the traffic and at work. We'll meet at this cozy little cafe that seems perfect just until the time we get there because we both got there on time, and then we are wondering whether it looks desperate to be on time. So we take a step back, wait in the shadows, come back when we see the other person and say hi, just like this is just one of the many things in our busy day. We'll walk in and we'll start to talk about the kind of things that slight acquaintances say after they say hello. The weather in Mumbai, the traffic in Andheri, well, Andheri. And then the waiter will interrupt us to take our order. We'll give him the order and then we'll settle back into trying to bridge that little road that started to get made between us. So the weather in Mumbai, something about Andheri, and you were saying, suddenly you or I will say or do something incredibly wrong. Can you take the saying wrong part, please? I'm rather proud of my words, but I have no ego invested in my grace. Right, that's settled then. So you can say something slightly sexist, racist, homophobic, or politically incorrect, while I will trip over the wire and fidget on the seat making those sounds. Embarrassment will come and settle down at our table, just like those unwelcome friends who spot you when you're on a date. You will charm me by not even noticing, while I can impress you with my intelligent jokes about people who are just like us but who are not us. We'll settle into this feeling of, I like this person so much, before we both realize this is just a date. Not even that, it was just supposed to be coffee. We'll stare down into our drinks, not coffee, for an entire minute, trying to cover up this companionable conversation that we almost had. This time, you can knock over the glass while I say something like, doesn't beer taste just like this? That's what you're drinking. Some laughter, some more laughter. It'll not be the same thing. It'll be that nervous laughter of, yeah, I think we read each other, let's move on. With this, now that we've read each other's cues correctly, we'll launch into our next big talk fest. You see, it's really difficult to fall in love over coffee and act like that is not what's happening, but we're both trying really hard. This should carry us through the next 45 minutes or so. We really get along very nicely, no? When the waiter arrives with the bill, he'll hand it over to you because that's what they always do in India. They give it to the man. I'll hope that you know that. I will worry that you'll think I'm cheap. So I'll protest probably a little more forcefully than I need to that I invited you here, this should be on me. You'll give me a strange look, and as you hand over the credit card, I'll know that it stopped being this fun game of emotional hide and seek. When we get up and move out, you will not open the door for me. You'll not hold it open for me. I will stop trying to remember whether you did that when we walked in. Not that it matters, I'm a modern woman, still I will wonder. I'll step out next to you, and this time you'll turn and look at me, and you will be looking for the same thing that I was looking for 2 seconds ago, that crucial 2 seconds that now we are off sync. I'll pull up my big smile, but I'm only ever charming inadvertently. And your aloofness is not looking that hot either. So fine, this is over, we're both accepting it, and we'll start to look for taxis in opposite directions. We'll find the taxi, I'll get in, and just before it moves, I'll turn to look at you. And in spite of everything that's gone on, I'll find myself saying, I really did have a nice time. And you'll say, yup, just before the taxi zooms off. And it sparkles and magic, even if it happened in a crowded cafe at night. But this was just supposed to be coffee, just a dating thing. So Rachit and Parvati both spoke about the city that we all love. This is my personal ode. I grew up in a city where the names were more poetic than the places. Churchgate, Chandivli. I was the daughter of 2 immigrants into the city, so I came with no legacy. I knew just my little patch of land, and I knew it really well. I knew how many black pigs there were in Marol village. I knew how many speed breakers there were on the road to Sahara Airport. Everything outside was just another jungle. So in 2005, when this human resources person spelled out the word Chinch Pokli on the phone, I laughed. I'd heard the word before. I'd heard it in a flop movie called Roop Ki Rani Choro Ka Raja, where Sridevi's character was called Princess Chai Mein Chini of Chinch Pokli. He didn't find it funny, but for some reason he offered me the job. I thought that this area would be somewhere in rural Karnataka. It turns out it was in Bombay, South Bombay. Not the South Bombay of the posh girls and the Parsi accented English, but the South Bombay of the mill workers who wrote the history of this city in their yarns and their dyeing and their weaving and clothed the rest of the country with all the work that they did. It was all gone by the time I moved into that area. It was all lost to years of labor strikes and union negotiations. The buildings around there had been lying under legal contracts and cases running for years on end. Very little remained of the people who had once lived there. Just one broken window somewhere, one weed-encrusted gate. That's all that said that a set of lives were lived here once that don't exist anymore. I'd walk in every day in my Van Heusen suit, my high heels, new economy striding in very confidently over the old. But these buildings spoke to me. And the poet in me joined hands with the historian and wrote odes of love to the city. Mills to malls, I said, tread respectfully when you walk over the bones of my city's dead past. A year later, I was bowed down with the pressures of the corporate world. I decided to take a walk outside the back gate, outside my office. It was the first time I was doing that. I opened the gate and it was as if I had fallen through a time warp. On one side, there was a broken mill, of course. That's what you found everywhere you went. But on the other side, there were the kind of shanties and shops that you would only see in the 1980s. The shops were selling phantom cigarettes, and there were kids playing with cycle tires and sticks. I took a little walk down the road, and at the very end, there was this board that said cotton green. I looked at that and I said, I think I'm dreaming, and I came right back to office. I thought that I must have had a sunstroke because too much sun can do that to somebody who lives their entire life inside an office cubicle. I looked it up on the internet, but there was nothing at that time about cotton green. The next day, my curiosity pulled me out back there again, and I found there was a railway station, but it looked very different from the stations that I had known. It had cobblestones instead of the broken stones that I knew in Andheri and Dadar. And Cotton Green Station had a train line that went all the way to Andheri. So this patch of land connected to my patch of this city by one train line. I started taking that train line every day because it was as if I was trying to trace my history, my lineage through that train ride every day. A few weeks later, it was the end of summer, and the newspaper carried an article which had a familiar word that jumped out at me. It was a story about the end of summer, and it said that flamingos took flight every year from marshlands. And it was accompanied by a National Geographic style photograph. I looked at this with some skepticism because I think flamingos are, with their long wings, they look so pink and ridiculous to be real. Flamingos really belong only in Alice's Wonderland, not in Bombay. But this article said that Cotton Green was the station to get down at if you wanted to go and see those marshlands. I was still very skeptical, but that morning when I got down from the train, I looked up expecting to see birds flying overhead. Of course, there were none. Then I took out the newspaper, Cotton Green, Flamingos. Real birds, real station. That day, I went out of town. I came back a week later, and by then the monsoons had already begun. First, I hoped that the flamingos had had a good flight, and then I said, I must have dreamed it all. But the next year, the newspaper carried another article about flamingos, this time with a different picture. So this time I said, someday I'll take that train line down, and instead of turning right to go to office, I'll take a left and I'll go see the marshlands. Someday I'll do that. Every day, I took that train line down. The first day I got down, I said, I'll do this just as soon as I finish this meeting about my bonuses. Right after I finished that important conversation with my boss. It's really hot today and I've got a client presentation after this. I'm wearing high heels. I don't really feel like trampling all over marshlands. At the end of the week, I got transferred back to the Andheri office. Every day I think about someday I'll take that train line down, not because I need to go to office, but because I need to take a left turn and explore something beyond what I knew. That day never really came. I don't know whether the flamingos exist anymore. Cotton Green has been dubbed Lower Kolaba, and the mills have been broken down. There are more and more malls coming up in those areas. But every day I live and breathe among people who are struggling to find inspiration in the city. People who are bogged down with service tax and legal notices. People whose lives may be changed like this by one judgment in Delhi or even the Bombay High Court. And I think inside my head, I know of a different city. I know a city where mill workers' children are chewing on phantom cigarettes and where women are selling fish straight out of the sea. And I know that this island, this Annapurna-blessed Portuguese princess's diary, fishing village of an island, has a history that gives poets a space as much as any other place in the world. My city has flamingos. So this is my last piece. It's also the first piece that I ever wrote and performed. It's something that came up in one of Rochelle's workshops. So Rochelle, thank you so much for bringing performance poetry to my life. This is called Paper Plane. How to make a paper plane? Start with a sheet of paper. Pick one that means something to you. A love letter from someone who doesn't love you anymore. An invitation to a wedding that you don't want to be a bridesmaid at. A page from a book that was a gift from someone you don't want to remember. things to do list from the Wednesday that you last saw them. This is testimony to what they used to call your OCD and what you call life. Everything you know is neatly listed here. Pay bills, refuel car, buy milk, renew library membership. Every single one neatly ticked off like you do in your life. Each one except one. Return alive. So take a sheet of paper just like this one that has all those feelings and emotions that refuse to stay put in a list that you can check off. Take that and let's start. So start with folding it neatly because that's how you do your life. And then fold it over one more time. You see, you've got to put this deep down with all the things in your life that do work. Your bills are always paid on time. There is always milk in your fridge. You're never caught without petrol in your car. So put it right there. Helps you deal with it. Give it one more fold. Now look at it. Ponder it. And now take out that last excuse from your pocket. You know which one I'm talking about? This is the one that says, he loves me so much. She is my best friend. But I'm so happy in this relationship. Take that excuse. It's been holding your story together. Use it to hold your paper plane together. And give it one more fold. And now, you take all those emotions that have been twisting the insides of you, all those relationships that you created only inside your own mind, all those things that couldn't find expression in your words or in the people around you, you take those and put that twisting into twisting your airplane, your paper plane. Give it wings. Now take your last breath of pain and regret and all those emotions that are cluttering up your life. Breathe it into your paper plane and hold it up. Look at this. You made it so pretty. You made it so neat. That's how you do things. That's how you live life. So give your paper plane a last look and then just let it go.
Feels so good to come back.